Homeschool moms, are you going to put multitasking on your CV or your resume after you're done this homeschool thing? Because you definitely could. We sometimes underestimate how many talents and skills we've gained over the years as homeschool parents. But I think there's a myth around multitasking. I think it feels good because we're trying to get all the things done because frankly we have a lot of things going on. And I could tell you tales about me as a new mom, breastfeeding, also cooking bacon, talking on the phone, and I'm pretty sure there was something else there. It wasn't safe. I have done many things like that where I'm trying to fit in this with this. And I think there's a place for multitasking, clearly, because you can indeed do laundry while doing read alouds. Or you can do all sorts of very boring chores while you are also answering somebody's question or listening to them talk about their dream last night. You can do all sorts of multitasking things. But the research actually indicates, like it actually has been done, that multitasking decreases your productivity. It certainly is not a happy making process, and it decreases the quality of what you have created. You don't get more done that way. So I think there's a myth around multitasking. But there's kind of a boastful pride about multitasking in our culture that if you get all these things done, look at me, how productive I was. And I think it's kind of this hilarious picture of perpetual motion. We're always supposed to be in motion. We're always supposed to be doing something. We're responsible for our kids' lives. We're organizing the household. We're developing our own passions, hopefully, if we have a little bit of time. We're investing in relationships. Stuff's got to get done. How else is it going to get done? Or does it? Or how much has to get done? How much of what we're doing actually is there because we're trying to prove to ourselves, maybe others, but mostly ourselves, that we're good enough or we're capable, that maybe we're even ahead of the school system sometimes, or at least that we're keeping our head above water and surviving this homeschool thing. Well, certainly when I started scheduling my own days, I purposely did time blocking. I decided I needed to figure out why I felt so overwhelmed. And I learned it was because as I wrote everything I did down, I was doing too much. Expected to do it very quickly and get everything that I had thought about doing ever done in that day. I discovered it was not possible to do it in that day, possibly not even a lifetime, because all of my expectations were wildly unrealistic. There's a reason I consistently address this concept of lowering your expectations because, well, ask me why. Yeah, exactly. High expectations. And it turns out we don't have to do all the things. Well, we tell ourselves that we have to. We look at other people, and when we compare ourselves in our Instagram channel or our homeschools or the things that people tell us about their homeschools, then we think, yeah, we're not doing enough. We have to do it better. It has to be prettier. It has to always be clean. No, we don't. You're enough. You are enough. What you're doing is enough. And multitasking is really just a process for creating your own internal insanity. It's not happy making. And we all know that. So sometimes multitasking is required and we have to learn how to do it. And we definitely will be able to write it down on our resume at the end of this homeschool thing. But in the meantime, the goal is mindfulness, to be present, to really be in the moment when we're doing something, which we're not always going to do. But the more we practice, the more likely we're going to hit that. And time block. Sometimes it's exhausting to imagine time blocking our entire day, writing down every single thing that we do, but it is revolutionary. It will change everything about your days. If you are doing too much, you will discover you don't need to do as much as you're doing. So write down everything you're doing, how much it's taking you to do, and then you'll discover whether you are being realistic with your time. And speaking of time, you have a limited amount of time. So what do you actually want to do? Other people might be doing cool things that you think this is what I as a homeschool mom would really love to be or do, except that you really don't like doing it when you're practically doing it. Like Easter crafts. I have a beautiful curated Easter board on my Pinterest, and I probably have not done more than 2 or 3 things on that board. Maybe I'll just keep it because it's pretty and it reminds me of what could be done. Maybe I'll every season show my kids, hey, have you seen this? Doesn't this look cool? Do you want to do this? No, because you're a 14-year-old boy? Oh, okay, fine. Maybe I'll have to let that one go. But it's definitely not something that I genuinely want to do. So what are the things you genuinely want to do? Then build time in to do that. Multitasking always takes away from eyeball to eyeball time with our kids. And that's okay, because we don't have to be eyeball to eyeball with them all the time. No guilt. It's not a thing. You can't be with them all the time and engage them all the time. But you should be some of the time. And you should definitely make them feel like they're really heard. So eyeball to eyeball time is really important. Schedule that in if you must. Practice mindfulness. So actually check in throughout the day and say, am I feeling content here? What's going on with me? How am I feeling? Am I doing too many things? What are the things that I could put away from today? Maybe I can do it in another day, or maybe I just need to let go of the notion of doing this thing at all. And speaking of you, are you building in time for you? Margins, we could call it. Space, we could call it. Time that maybe just 15 minutes if you have a really young family right now, but are you building in time for you? Whether it's fun time or learning time or just being alone time, you need to have white margins that are just for you. So those are a few ideas in how you can approach multitasking. Because though it definitely is going to be a skill base that you develop over the years, you probably don't want to be doing as much as you're doing. So practice mindfulness so we can get out of that myth of multitasking.